here, driver!" She signalled to the cabbie. The horses clocked to a halt. The hackney jiggled as the driver climbed down to open the door. "Are you sure, missus? They're shutting up shop for the day." Shadows flitted in an adjacent alley, a giggle, and they were gone. Mrs. Hudson smiled and dropped a coin into the cabbie's palm. "And there's another if you wait until I return." His hand remained open. She pulled another coin from her purse and held it above his hand. "Take care. You wait at least an hour, young Albert. I know your mother." The coin clinked in his hand. Albert swallowed and straightened his cap. "Yes, Mrs. Hudson." Mrs. Hudson turned, scanned the alley entrance and waited. Soft footsteps padded closer, stopping just before they reached the street. She lifted her chin and took a deep breath. "I'm looking for the Baker Street Irregulars," she announced. The patter edged closer. A shadow flicked across the alley entrance. "Who's asking?" The voice was high-pitched. Mrs. Hudson straightened her shawl and eyed the alley entrance. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes has recommended their services," she continued. A boy, barely in his teens, strode into the fading sunlight. His smudged face begged a spit and polish. A mop of sandy-coloured hair fell over his forehead. He pushed his sleeves up to his elbow and leaned against the wall. "I know you," he said. "You work for Mr. Holmes." A shorter boy peeked out of the alley. Mrs. Hudson huffed. "He's my lodger." The older boy cleared his throat. "Does Mr. Holmes require our services?" he asked. "In a manner of speaking," replied Mrs. Hudson. "I'm on an errand for him." It wasn't a lie. The matter of the deceitful client needed resolving before Mr. Holmes returned on Monday. She couldn't have his reputation brought into question. "Ah, so you do work for him." The boy grinned. The smaller boy giggled. "See here." Mrs. Hudson glared in their direction. The younger boy darted back into the shadows. She paused and raised an eyebrow. She didn't know the boy's name. Proper admonishment required the application of the correct name.